Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. So lovely to speak to you. How are you today?
Hi, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you virtually. So for people who don't know anything about Barbarians, can you give us a bit of a glimpse? What can they expect if they watch this film?
Well, I don't want to give any spoilers, but Barbarians is a thriller set over 24 hours, centering around a dinner that takes place between two couples. The main characters, Adam, played by the brilliant Ewan Rion, and there's a lot of tensions between the couples. Stuff gets revealed, and the night sort of takes a turn for the worst.
And it's your debut feature, which you also wrote. And it feels incredibly original and different from other things we've seen. So where did you get the initial inspiration, and what made you decide this was the film you wanted to make for your first feature?
Well, I wrote it over quite a long time, and I was interested in a sort of almost like a coming of age story for a guy, in the modern world who maybe there's no real ritual, or he doesn't have to go to war, there's no real pressures for him to grow up. So perhaps he's stuck in a state of arrested emotional development. And if that happens, there's no real issue, and unless chaos comes, and then you're in big trouble. So that's what I wanted to dramatize, and that's what I was exploring. But that's what I ended up with.
And it feels like it's very rooted though as well in kind of our era, and maybe millennial broadly. I feel like I'm a millennial, don't know about you, but like the fact, when they're trying to do the bits on social media, and kind of even like the conversation they're having around the dinner table. So was that also something you really wanted to kind of capture, kind of in the feel of it and in the characters?
Yeah, I think again, the idea of maturity, I was thinking about, like, what is that even? And I settled on this definition of like an alignment of thoughts, words, and actions, and saying what you really think. And I just been, I think social media is one aspect of it, but also just being around dinner tables and conversations where people are just parroting things. I'm not sure if they really believe them, or if they really know they really believe them. And they just, people are sort of going through the ritual of these dinners without really standing. They probably can't stand behind a lot of what they say. So that's definitely something I was interested in.
And tell us about your cast. Did you have these actors in mind? And I guess it wasn't just about getting, your main character right, but also kind of the dynamic between all four of them was also really crucial. And like Tom Cullen, I think, is brilliant in that role too, kind of like playing off Ian. So how did you decide on all four of them, and how did you work with them to achieve your vision?
Yeah, I mean, they all are fantastic, and I was so lucky to have them. I think the truth is, as a first-time director, it was a lot of them choosing me. I think, but you're right in that the dynamic between everyone was so important. And Ewan and Tom had never worked together, but they both from Wales, they both got the characters and they played off each other amazingly well. And that was a real, just luck, great luck. I mean, Kathleen is fantastic. Her and Ewan, we rehearsed the film for a week before we started shooting, basically right up until the end of the dinner. So everyone got to know each other and play and find out about, ask me questions or decide on their character's backstory. They could find out about not just their characters, but each other as people, me as a director, and I could get to understand them and how best to work with them. So when we got on set, it was a lot more playful, I think.
And tell us also about the locations, in particular that incredible house, which also feels like it's almost like part of the story becomes a character as well. So and how did you choose your locations, and how important were they to you in the making of the film?
Yeah, I mean, the house was incredibly important because everyone's fighting over it. So whose house is it? Is it Adam? Is it Lucas's? Is it the brothers? Whose house is it? So it has to be something that everyone covets. And then a lot of the writing was, a lot of it is like a play. So one person hears the other, and it needed to be actually the layout of it was actually quite specific and tricky. So basically, long story short, I looked at a lot of houses, and we ended up having to build the bedroom and the bathroom because that house didn't have a second floor or first floor.
And what was the shoot like? Were there like real highlights and real challenges? And without trying to give too much away, it must have been scenes that have been fun to make as well, but also difficult to pull off maybe.
I mean, for me, we did like really long takes around the dinner table because we'd rehearsed it like a play and we got to play it like a play. So for me, that was the most enjoyable because the actors were really playing off each other and there was a real rhythm to it and humor, and it was a sort of pinch me moment because I couldn't believe it was all sort of come to life. Other stuff that comes later, I have very less experience with. I got to work with some amazing stunt coordinators and great cinematographers. So it was a learning experience, and I enjoyed it, but it's not straightforward.
And what about kind of the tone and the look and feel of the film? Because it feels like it's got that kind of like black comedy thing. There's sort of like that British humor element to it. Some of it's quite kind of deadpan, quite dry. Did you take inspiration from any other filmmakers, or is that something that comes from your own kind of sense of humor and what you like to see in a film?
Both, to be honest with you. I like really awkward humor. So I definitely wanted that. I think, and that also is like quite rooted in characters. So that helps, I think, with what happens later with the action. Because I think when that happens, if you know more about the characters, you're more thrilled. But as far as things that inspired me, I'm a big Kubrick fan. So there was who I find really funny and slightly awkward. And then there was, so there's Clockwork Orange and some other some other films where stuff happens in a home. Straw Dogs was a big influence. Then like there's a film called The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, which is a really interesting film set around a dinner table. And then Force Majeure, how they shot the dinner party scenes, was a big sort of influence for me. Again, quite a funny film, I think.
And what do you hope people will take away from watching it? Because I guess, you've got all those different, it kind of cuts across a few different genres, perhaps, kind of the drama and then turning it maybe into more kind of like thriller or something else later. Yeah. But then there's also a thing you were saying at the beginning about like, reaching maturity and kind of these ideas of masculinity and, these group of people trying to find themselves and not kind of maybe putting up a front or whatever. So, what do you think people take away in terms of the themes and the action as well?
I mean, I did want to make a film where you didn't know. Some films you watch them and in the first 5 minutes, you sort of know where it's going to end up. And that's what I didn't want to do that. So I think I really wanted to allow people to have a ride and experience and feel like at the end of the film, they've really traveled quite a long way with these characters and feel, I guess, a little bit spent. So that's what and then to go away and maybe let it settle and things will come up and maybe watch it again. I don't know. But I guess thematically, it's hard to put into words because otherwise he wouldn't have made a film necessarily. But I think Adam, ultimately it's about not only knowing the right thing to do isn't enough. You actually need to do it. And if you get into habit of not doing the right thing, you're going to get into trouble when external circumstances mess up your life.
And just to quickly talk a bit about, your own career, because obviously you've been working with this production company with some incredible films like, the incredible Lost Daughter, which is one of my favorite films of last year. So, what's that work been like and how has that kind of fed into you becoming a filmmaker yourself?
I mean, working, producing films, the best thing that you can do is work with great creatives and sort of offer them the opportunity to express themselves, and that's what I try and do. And I sort of, I've always wanted to make a film, and I've worked a lot as an actor. So I always dreamt of making a film. I guess it's very different. It's much more about enabling other people's creative vision, and this is about sticking to your own.
Mm. And did it mean a lot to you to see how well received films like The Lost Daughter were? Obviously, it's a different, like you say, role as a producer, but still, this kind of your baby that's gone out into the wild somehow.
I mean, I'm incredibly proud to be involved with The Lost Daughter. The crazy amount of talented people that are involved in it is, astounding, and it is a brilliant piece of writing and direction. Couldn't be prouder for how it's been received. It is a very different feeling between that and something that I wrote and directed. Different, I'm not going to say better or worse, but it's very different.
And where do you think that your aspirations will take you next? Do you already have another film in mind, or are you going to let the dust settle on this one before you move on?
I'm writing at the moment, so definitely got something in mind, and definitely want to continue writing, directing.
And do you have any particular actors that you would love to work with, or writers, or do you have any like dream projects in mind?
Nothing that I could really talk about, no, to be honest with you.
Putting you on the spot. And how do you feel about the health of the cinema industry at this point as well? Because I guess the pandemic's really knocked things back, but at the same time, I feel like the landscape's actually broadened a lot, hasn't it, in the last few years, with streaming platforms, with Sky, with Netflix. It's not just about, cinema releases anymore. So do you think that's affording like more opportunities for filmmakers as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of content being made. I think the cinema experience is, the dream for me, for example, for Barbarians, is to share it with an audience in a cinema. But it is a tricky thing to market, to get people out into cinema, and I think the pandemic has certainly affected that. And then bigger films with bigger budgets and bigger marketing budgets can definitely get the exposure to get people into cinema. But I think there'll always be a place for people to share that together. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. And as far as helping different voices, I'd like to think that. I think that is true. The repercussions of what's happened in the last few years, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I think we'll be finding that out in years to come, really.
Mm-hmm. The other film that I forgot to mention earlier was also, have you seen Windfall? Which I thought was a completely different film to yours, but there was like some slight kind of parallel to it. You didn't see it yet?
Not actually, sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, if you go and watch it, you can be like, oh, I remember. It's a completely different setup, but there's some parallels. So yeah.
What are the parallels?
It's like also in this big house. It's a bit isolated, and the characters are set up, and things kind of take twists and turns that you're not expecting it to. So, but yeah, you can look forward to seeing what I mean about that. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and can't wait for everyone else to see Barbarians on Sky. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks.